Especially when your voice is so recognizable, eh?
It's a blessing and a curse because it's a blessing when you're in the McDonald's drive-thru. They're like, hey, are you that guy from the radio? And then you get an extra set of fries. But then they expect a shout out. And then 9 times out of 10 I forget. So I just like move around to different McDonald's. So then they never hit me up about it.
Hey, it's your boy Pat Mac. Welcome back to Real Talks. Got my guy Nickson here, Mai Morning.
Thanks for having me, man.
Bro, we were just talking about you having a famous voice.
I don't like that word, the famous
recognizable. Recognizable.
Yeah, I'd like to say recognizable.
Actually, I did call it recognizable.
Yeah, you did.
But it is kind of famous. When was the last time that you used your voice to gain a pecuniary advantage?
Probably McDonald's about 2 nights ago, to be completely honest. Yeah. No, I think because I've lived with it my whole life and it is what it is now, I'm just like, if people resonate to it and I can be their alarm clock in the morning, then I'm humbled by that.
Because most people hate hearing their own voice, eh?
Yeah.
Did you go through a self-loathing with your voice stage?
Oh, for so many years I did. Just because when I grew up listening to radio, everybody had like a radio voice. And I think I was just part of that new generation that didn't actually sound like a radio jock. So
that's so crazy to hear you say that, because like your voice is now like, you've kind of redefined the voice.
Yeah, one of my first jobs ever was being work experience for Oscar Kitely, who I still think is one of the most amazing talented people of all time. But he gave me my first gig in radio, and he was like, it's so much easier just to be yourself.
Yeah.
Like, don't put on a voice. Don't do any of that. Just be yourself. And there was some times where I wasn't myself and I was trying new things. And then as soon as I just relaxed and just accepted what it is, it just made it so much easier to deliver content.
That is cool, because there was a period in time where everybody on the radio was trying to sound like an American jock, eh?
Exactly, yeah. And I think the first 5 years of my radio career, I think I went through that.
Really?
Yeah.
Where were they? Where was that? Was that on Mai, or where were originally?
Nah, I've been around. I wanted to be a one club player, but no, that wasn't a thing. My first job was at New FM. New FM, and me and a good friend of mine, Nate, who I used to do the show with. We started together at New FM doing work experience. Worked 2 years for free, and then I kind of just worked my way from there.
And did you guys both go to Mai together?
Funny story. So I came to Mai first, and then they were like, who would you like to do the show with? And I always said that, if I ever got a chance to pick a co-host, then I wanted Nate, and it just worked. And and that's how it all started.
Such a storied history at Mai. But before we jump into that, I'm just so keen to hear about, because I don't know a lot about you, but I'm just so keen to hear about your story and your life, and like, where'd you come up? Where?
I'm a West Auckland boy, Te Aratu Peninsula.
Let's go.
It was Tat North back in the day, but
my
now
son paddles for Waitakere, which is down at the boat ramp.
Yeah, just off the motorway.
Yeah. 100.
I grew up there, born and bred in Te Aratu, West Auckland. I went to kindergarten, primary school, and then I got sent overseas to do some schooling overseas, and I went to Aussie to do that, and I spent a couple of years there. I think my parents thought I was good at sport, so they thought I would have a good opportunity to get into a sports team over there.
Were you good at sport?
No, and so my mum and dad were like, "No, you're wasting time. Come back home." So
did you have a sport?
Yeah, I thought I was good at rugby, but I actually wasn't.
Yeah,
I was just playing in a grade that I probably shouldn't have been in, so I looked mean, but I wasn't actually mean.
You were the big kid playing against the little kids.
Yeah, little kids. And so I went overseas, and parents came over and they did some work over there too. But then they came back early, and then they told me that I had to come back as well. And then I finished off my schooling at Rutherford College in Te Aratu.
So you were Te Aratu hearty.
Yeah, still. And I only just moved out about 4 years ago. No, maybe 3 years ago. I only just moved out of Te Aratu 3 years ago. So
what was it like growing up there? Because what was this like? 90s?
Yeah, I was born in 85, and so it's actually changed a lot. So when I was growing up, my mum and I used to walk to the takeaway, a classic called Haddad's, and back then mum had to carry a golf club while we walked up the road, just because it was pretty ghetto back then. And then now everyone who can't afford to buy in Greylin and Point Chev, they've all moved to Te Aratu now, so it started to bougie up the area. But
nobody thought mum was on the way to the golf club?
No.
There's no golf club around
There's
there.
no golf club. I don't even know where the nearest golf course is. But no, it's definitely changed, and I think for the better too. And it's still cool to see like originals. Like my mum and dad still live there.
Yeah.
My nan and grandpa still live there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Some of my best friends still live there. So it's definitely a cool community.
What was it like for you coming up as a young man? Well, did you have a special talent, a gifting, or like how did it? I'm interested how it kind of got to the Korean radio. And
Yeah, I think.
did you watch Robert Roxy when you were a kid?
I loved him, man. I loved him.
He's cool, eh?
It's so buzzy now, like, because he's obviously moved to the Breeze, and that's just like, 2 studios down from us in the same building.
Oh, real?
And it's buzzy thinking that, like, I grew up wanting to sit in his chair, and now I have the honor to sit in his chair.
That's right.
And still be able to see him. So, I grew up listening to Mai. Mum and dad had a Japanese import car, so, you could only get 88.6 or News Talk ZB. But I actually didn't know what I wanted to do for a very long time. I went through phases. I worked at a bank for a little bit. I was a bank teller at ANZ in Papatoetoe. And then...
did you think you were going to be a banker?
Nah. I love numbers. Like, I really like
okay.
numbers. And I was pretty good at maths back in the day. So I thought maybe that's the career path, and never really thought about radio. Loved radio, but never really thought about it. And then every report card that I would get back is, Nickson talks too much. Nickson talks too much. Nickson won't achieve anything more if he keeps talking too much, or that sort of stuff. And then I turned a negative into a positive, and now they pay me to talk. So I thought, I'll give it a shot. And Oscar, who I mentioned before, he went to my school.
Yeah.
And we had to pick like a career path thing one day. And I reached out to him, and he was like, what school do you go to? I was like, Rutherford. And he goes, I went to that school too. Sweet. Come in, and you can come and read the newspaper for us and clip all our content pieces and go get the milk for our cup of coffees. And it kind of just started from there. Yeah.
Can I just hit up something that's real, like sort of just like one of my personal bugbears, or something I'm interested to learn more about? Your report card was like, Nickson talks too much, Nickson talks too much. My report card was like, Pat doesn't apply himself, or he doesn't pay attention, or like he's always off on some other tangent. And I talked to a lot of Maori Polynesian people, Samoan, Tongan, Fiji, like all our friends, right?
Yeah.
And it's not too dissimilar.
Very true.
And I wonder if you have any thoughts or reflections upon your experience at school and how suitable that type of learning is for our people. Because this is obviously only anecdotal, right?
Yeah.
It's just us going, well, by comparison to your comparison, it sounds like all our friends did this.
Yeah.
But increasingly, I wonder, because if you look back at the formation of public schooling, it was, set up at the height of the industrial age to create more people to go and work in factories. And it seems to me that like whatever the prevailing generation that we're in, whether it's technology, whether it's industrial age, whatever it is, education seems to flop into the place where the growth area is, and kind of just the system churns out more people for the system.
Yeah.
But is that system, do you think that system in education is suitable for folks like us?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, because I think like as every year ticks over, everybody's questioning the curriculum that the school dishes out, and I don't like. I hope no parent is like watching this expecting me to mold the minds of their young ones, but I saw school as a chance to upskill my memory, like, because school exams, it's not a test on your ability, it's a test on your memory. So I felt like I wasn't really learning much, but I could just bank all this information and get myself through those tests. And I just don't agree that what we're currently seeing at the moment is made for like a one size fits all, especially when there's new career opportunities available. Like there's more people probably making money off playing Fortnite now than they are getting a lawyer job. So like this mold that I think our youth are going through at the moment, it's not necessarily built for the mass anymore. I think it's very Stone Age, or not Stone Age, but it's very like old school mentality. But I think for a lot of Pacific Islanders, and I can only speak on behalf of Pacific Islanders, is that we just used it to get through, bank as much information as we could, get through these exams, not get a hiding at home, and then go out and make some money and support your family. Yeah.
Because as a young man, had you not had that connect and that association with Oscar, or that opportunity, or that urge, that unction to go and and follow that thing, are you living, like, do you feel like you're living in your passion and your purpose right now?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think that, like, I have got a really, like, go-getter attitude. So if I do see something that I really do want, I'll figure out a way to get there. Obviously, it was just helped along the way by someone like Oscar, but I think I would have made that choice anyway, just by loving music, loving the ability to have a platform where, you know, you can be a part of someone's life. I think that stuff sort of excited me. So, I think I still would have molded myself into a role that was very similar. Not necessarily on air, but something to do with communications. I think that would have been my journey.
When you think about taking those first steps in your career, and, you know, you got those opportunities, you're doing those things for those guys, when did it become filled with intent? Like, when you were like, okay, actually, nah, I want to be the radio host, I want to feature this way, I want to do these things. Like, when did it become that for you? And was there a moment around it? And what was your mindset around just that decision at that point in time?
I think, good question. I've never actually thought about that. I don't think there was like this actual defining moment.
Yeah.
But I think that once I started to see the pros in the job or in the industry, because I don't think I strived ever to really like be like the breakfast announcer. I think I was just happy with radio and the industry because I loved it so much. But I think that once I saw all that people liked the content, it was communicating to an audience that I was very passionate about, I think, and I met my wife through that. So I met my wife through radio. She wasn't a prize winner. She worked in radio. I wasn't hooking up with callers. But I think there was just heaps of things that just fell into place. So I think it was like a number of things that fell into place that made me just go, this is providing for my family. I'm having a great time doing it. I work 20 hours a week. You know, like this is a good time.
Was there intent in I don't want to say climbing the ladder because that's the wrong term, but making progress through your career? Like, was that planned, or were you just loving what you were doing and opportunities were opening up, or were you more purposeful in seeking them out and, you know, being more strategic about how you built your career and your profile in the industry?
Yeah, I've never really talked about that, but yeah, there was some strategy because I'm very I like to put systems in place if I've got certain goals in place.
Yeah.
And I think that once I got a shot to do a night show,
right,
and then Tawila Blakely and Oscar left to do Sione's wedding, then I got the drive show. I was like, wow, there's actually progression in this, that you start in nights, you go to the afternoon show, and then you head to breakfast. That's the succession plan. So I was like, no, I'm going to do everything I can, and I'm going to try and find this lane that I can be like nobody else. I'm just going to be the best Nickson I can be, and I want to see if that can get me to a breakfast slot. And then once I got the green light to do that, then I was like, okay, cool, like what's the next thing then? But I think like when I was going through radio, I think any radio host, if you're on air, your drive is to get to a breakfast show because that's your flagship show on any radio station. So yeah, there was some strategy to that.
When you think about, you said something super interesting, because a lot of people don't get to like be the person that they want to be, or let alone the best version of what they want to be. When you were at that stage, what did that look like? Like
it was yuck, man. It was yuck. It was yuck. Yeah. These are deep questions, man. Like, yeah, I think this is why I was so nervous driving here. I think, again, like, I think you brought up the whole, like, you know, with hip hop and R&B in particular, it was very, in the early days, it was very American focused. Yeah. So I think I was putting on the accents. You know, I was like trying to like live a life in a magazine, like, and I think I was probably doing some things that I'm probably not proud of now, like in my personal life, and that mum and dad would probably be, you know, upset about if they knew. And then I think that I was just faking it every single day, trying to be something that I wasn't. Yeah. And I think it got to like 26, I think something just clicked, and I was like, nah, you need to start growing up. And then by the time I got to 28, and I'm helping our sister Tegan, who I do the show with Jordan in the morning. I said, when you get to 28, things just click, and I think that's when I was like, nah, I want to be the best version of me now. I want to live my best life. Right. Going through radio, I remember like...
How old are you now?
I'm 37 this month.
Right.
37, old guy now.
That's only 9 years ago, though.
Yeah. And that's when I proposed to my wife, and I knew what I wanted at that point. But I think every point leading up to that, as like leaving school to 27, 28, I was pretending, if you know what I mean. Like I was like doing radio because I was on the Mai Morning Crew at that point too, and I was doing radio to impress other people, or I was creating content, or I was trying to be a guy that, funny that I was the last person to figure this out, but everyone could see through. Like, it was just so disingenuous. Just doing dumb pranks or like delivering content that just wasn't, right for our people. And then at 27, 28, I was just like, nah, I'm going to talk about things that are real to me. I'm going to be vulnerable. I want to just be open and honest. I want to talk the way that I'll talk to you now. I'm going to just change all that. And so far, so good. And I think when you're younger as well, and you're not in a spotlight of any sense, you get sucked into you're not used to negative feedback, and that used to get to me quite a bit, because obviously people have the means to text in or call in saying shut up, you idiot, and I used to take that real bad. And then once, because I thought I was trying to impress people, but once I started to just be myself, there's still a whole bunch of people that probably hate my guts. But I'm just
at least
more,
you can be comfortable with
I'm
yourself.
more at peace with myself now,
Yeah.
because I know that I'm just being me, and I hope that there's a group of people that still like me, but that you can't impress everybody.
Yeah.
And I think once you come to terms with that, it just makes life so much easier and less stressful.
Congratulations, bro, because that's a lot to unpack and resolve.
We've got this saying, and it's stayed with me for ages. If you can't take the bad, don't take the good.
Yeah.
So I don't read any texts.
Yeah.
I don't read any Facebook messages or Instagram DMs or any negative comments, and I hope there's still love behind those messages, if people are just trying to get a reaction or just trying to spread love in their own certain way. But I just don't read that sort of stuff, because I really feel like in today's age, especially with how accessible people are now, it can really get to people, and it can really break down their emotions, and that's the last thing people need right now.
It's so interesting that for a big chunk of your career, you lived your life as a subject to the culture, but then became yourself, your true and vulnerable self, and that best version of yourself. And then arguably from my observation, because I don't know a lot about your story, but now you're influencing that culture, whereas that culture used to influence you. Yeah.
And I just think, believe it or not, I'm so humbled to have the opportunity to be a part of people's lives every morning. And I never want to take that platform for granted. I think you've been given an opportunity to sit in a seat, be people's alarm clocks, give them a bit of escapism from what their daily issues are. And I just want to make sure that we're using that platform for the greater good, and we are giving back to the people. So then I know that if there's a young Nickson listening who's probably going through that sort of situation that I went through, they're not figuring it out too late, and they've got someone that they can relate to every morning. So yeah, that's my drive. As cheesy as it probably sounds, that's my drive.
Do you ever feel any pressure to use that platform to address some of the social inequities and, or like some of the bigger issues around what your people are facing, whether it's issues around, the level of poverty in our communities, or health, or do you ever feel like, because I know with you got all these radio stations, you got a whole bunch of genres, you got a whole bunch of personalities playing parts within a genre that's, for an audience. And then you have other stations where serious conversation happens. But my observation is, if you look at social media and the extent to which young people are becoming politically aware, socially aware, the causes that are coming up now, do you ever feel like, do you feel like you're doing enough to champion those causes, or do you just not feel like that's your role to do those things inside of what your mahi is?
If you had asked me that same question last year, I would have said, nah, that's not my role. But I feel that like this year in particular, I feel like we've been more challenged to do things like that. I've always had this reservation in my mind and on my conscience a little bit where this might sound bad as I first say it, but like I never went through that struggle that a lot of our people have gone through now. And not that I grew up like bougie or rich or anything like that, but I never went through too much struggle. And I always feel like sometimes if I do speak out, I don't want to come across as a savior, because that's not. I want to be compassionate and very empathetic to people that are going through that, but I never want to tell people how to feel and how to think if I can't 100% relate to it. But I think that's the blessing of like the show that I work on now, is that we have these people's champions. So like Jordan, who's amazing on that kaupapa of making sure that that group of people are represented, and someone's like championing that with you. I love to surround myself with people that are on that journey so I can learn more. And I think that's probably my goal this year and moving forward, is that I want to learn more to be able to help and service, rather than speak up on things that I probably don't have enough education to speak up on. So it's a challenge that I'm still continuing to learn.
100.
But I'd rather be honest about it than pretend that I know everything, because there's too many of those guys on radio that pretend that they know everything, and
totally
you're like, okay, man.
When you think about where you go with all of this, with radio, and you've been purposeful, you've had a strategy, you've resolved the existential crisis, you're coming to terms with what it means to be a voice that has influence that people recognize. When you think about, it's interesting you said a year ago, like that's recent. So when you think about, do you think about, because you're kind of like when Joey D sat on that couch as well, and like everyone's just like, he's just a prankster. Dude is super strategic. Strategic. And it's interesting to hear you say that you had a strategy and purpose and just some design behind what it is that you're doing. Have you ever thought about what the best version of Nickson looks like in a year's time, in a few years' time? And where are you and what are you doing?
I think like my main priority is my family. Like I love my parents, and like I love my wife, and I want to make sure that whatever I do, that strategy complements making sure that they're provided for. And so I think at the moment I'm using radio to obviously have a good time, but set myself up for what happens after radio. We always look at radio like a sports team. You have your position, you don't own the chair, you don't own the jersey, and then you're just caretaking it for the next person. And I think that when my time's up, that I think the next plan, we've got plans, but we're obviously still working on those. But yes, there is a strategy and there is a plan when my exit of radio happens.
Will it be out of the, because a lot of people go from the hot seat to the program director seat or whatever it is.
I've been there, done that. And
So you kind of been there, done that. Do you think about when you're out, or like?
I will be honest about that. That's hopefully my boss isn't listening, but I think once I'm done on my FM, I'll be done. I think, or once I'm done in radio, whatever happens in the next few years, I think it will be a complete career change if I'm hoping to retire, to be completely honest with you. I think once radio is done,
you want to be a man of leisure?
I want to be a stay-at-home dad. Like that's my dream. But have some things that are going on the side that I can just manage passively and go from there.
Talk to me about that, bro. You want to be a stay-at-home dad?
That's my ultimate. I want to be a dad so bad. And obviously, it takes two to make a baby. So wifey, she's on her career journey too, which I fully support. And when the time's right, hopefully sooner rather than later. And then be able to enjoy that. I want to be a real present dad.
Is that because you had a good upbringing though, right? It's just, is that because you want to give that to your kids, or like was there any issues with your childhood growing up?
Nah, not at all. I had a sister who passed away.
I'll just say that because I had a terrible dad.
Oh, okay.
Was extremely bad role model. Good in some regards, but overall was just not the best.
No. I
great grandfather though.
Oh yeah, I love my grandpa too, and he's still mucking about living his best life. But No, I had a great childhood. My parents are amazing. Like I love my parents, and you know they've given me all the life skills now to be able to, you know, provide for my own family, and I just think that the older I get, and I had a sister. That's what I was talking about before. I had a sister when she passed away when I was 2. She was younger than me, and because I'm my only child now, it's not that the pressure's on me to, you know, obviously give my parents grandchildren, but I just think that that's like there's something I just found that I'm just so passionate about. I just want to be a dad. I want to, you know, take them to school, go to school camp, you know, and go on family trips, that sort of stuff. And yeah, I just want to be able to give our child the upbringing that I had and experience a whole bunch. So yeah.
I don't want to put any pressure on your situation, but like I wish I had my kids a lot earlier. Well, I didn't have my kids, but I wish my wife and I had our children.
Well, my wife's
earlier.
still young. I'm the one that's getting, like, I'm nearly pushing 40, man. So, you know, still talking about TikTok every morning and this old ass man. Yeah, but you know, the guys around me keep me young. But yeah, no, wifey's still young, and yeah, it will happen. If it happens, it happens, and it'll be a blessing. So
yeah, I love my kids. They added a whole new dimension to my life that I didn't even know that I was missing.
Yeah.
And when they came along, you can become a whole lot more responsible, and
your priorities change.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think finding that balance between your work life and your family life, like, and really embracing that family time, that's the stuff that excites me. It really excites me.
I'm not asking you to expose yourself, but I'm kind of asking you to expose yourself because I guess people...
You've got me in a very vulnerable state now, so go hard.
People only hear a part of your life.
Yeah.
They put together the picture of who you are by the things that they hear on the radio. I mean, if you were analyzing any jock's life, you would be like, wow, that person spends like 99% of their time laughing and you know, being surrounded by people that they love hanging out with, and it seems like the most joyful place in the world. And obviously your personal life is your personal life.
Yeah.
But is there anything that you wish that they knew about you that they don't know about you?
Yeah, well, I actually bear most... I bear all on radio now. But I think, like, it's actually quite funny because, you know, Jordan, who I do the show with now, like, we used to hate each other's guts.
Oh, really?
We just had a bit of a falling out, bloody social media. But when we got to know each other, he said something to me and he was like, "You're very misunderstood. Once I got to know you, I get you now." And I think a lot of people from face value probably don't really know the real Nickson, but if I get the opportunity to talk about it, then obviously you get a little bit more. But I think that's the main consensus. Like, even my wife, she's like, you're very misunderstood. Very misunderstood.
Really?
I come across like as quite
so?
mischievous and cheeky
what were people not getting?
Well, people, I think what we talked about before, like I come across like very relaxed but there's actually a plan behind everything that I do. I present myself in a certain way. You know, I can be, you know, relaxed, but at the same time, like, my brain's ticking. I've got extreme ADHD, like, so I take tablets for that, which again, I probably don't talk about enough. And I know that a lot of people go through that struggle. And so the ADHD stuff really gets me going and my brain's always ticking away. So that's one thing that people don't understand, and that's probably the reason for some of my actions sometimes, and the reason probably why I can do like 100 things at once. But there's that. Yeah, I think that's the main thing, is that people sometimes just don't get me because of the way that maybe I hold myself or present myself, or they think there's like an agenda to it. It's actually no agenda. The only agenda is basically like for me to do the best that I can do and then go home. Yeah.
How does your ADHD affect how you conduct yourself?
It became a real strain on my family, on my marriage actually, until I actually sorted it out. Because I kind of always knew that I had it, but I didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And so my whole childhood, I could never watch a full movie.
Yeah.
So I'd never watched a full movie in my whole life. And then things just started to frustrate me a little bit because things weren't happening like certain ways that I wanted it to happen, or like I would do one thing and I wouldn't listen to like my wife as she's talking to me. I'd always be like walking out the doors like she's talking because I'm doing something else. And your day to day that can actually tire you out and frustrate you. And I think I got a bit of a burnout, so I had to go to the doctor. Now I take Ritalin, and now I've watched a full movie, and it's just given me more peace about focusing on things that are important, prioritizing things, and making me focus a little bit more. But
is it hard to come to terms with that? Like that?
It's hard because I think the stigma when you're a Polynesian is that stuff doesn't really exist.
Oh, okay.
That's very deep, but I honestly think that's real. And I think those walls are coming down, thanks to people like Mike King and, actually talking about mental health, because it is mental health having ADHD. But I think that those sort of things, our community don't talk about enough.
Oh, same, right?
Yeah. And like I remember like back in the day, if you said that you were depressed, you were just an attention seeker.
Or you were like a pussy.
Yeah, exactly. Harden up. So I think, that sort of stuff got me at first because, or if you grew up in like a very religious household, they would just be like, just pray about it. And then
come out.
Yeah, come out, demons. But I think going and sitting in a with a psychiatrist and talking through it was a new experience of learning more about yourself. And, again, I wanted to be the best version of me. So if this was going to help me be the best version of me, then, I'll suck it up. I lied to my wife a couple of times. I said that I went to my sessions and I never did, but because I was like still a bit nervous. But once I came to terms with it and started doing it, I think it's the best decision I ever made.
How long do you see a psychiatrist for?
You have to go for quite a bit. I think I had to go in 8 times until they actually, diagnose you properly.
Yeah.
I think that they want to get it right, obviously, if they're giving you medication. But I went about 8 times, and I learned a lot. I can't encourage,
because there's also a stigma around going out to see a psychiatrist, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think if you have a medical condition, then absolutely. But also you need somebody to talk to about this stuff. If you can't talk to other people, and like it's kind of like a mental performance coach.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And like what you were saying before as well is that like when you, or what I was saying to you before is that when you're trying to tell people how to live, but you've never lived that life.
Yeah.
And then you think to yourself, man, my life's not that hard. Like people are going through worse. You kind of just reserve your thoughts or your progression into those, therapy sessions. And I didn't want to sit in front of a therapist that wasn't an islander, didn't grow up, the way that I grew up. And it's like, what can you tell me? Like, you're going to tell me how to live your life, and that might not suit me. So I think those were my reservations. And I think a lot of people go through that. It's like, what is this Palangi going to tell me about the way that I grew up? And I think, once I let go of that and started to listen, it was less about how to live, but just giving you tools to help your own situation out. And that became like a godsend for me.
Man, that's so cool. It's thank you for sharing that.
Oh, no worries. I've never shared that before.
Bro, that's
I've
amazing.
never shared that. Yeah, so like I said, you got me in a very vulnerable state.
That was real quick too.
I was like, wow, okay, whoa, okay. Yeah.
But it is that stigma.
Yeah.
It's fantastic that, Mike is doing the job that he's doing, and Sir John Kerwin and all those people that are out there championing mental health and our mental well-being. But like with anything, the rubber doesn't hit the road till people like you start talking more about it and doing more about it.
But I think that's also opened up as well, because obviously I have a very, very supportive wife, but also I saw, Tegan go through her stuff. I've seen, Jordan go through his. I've seen so many people around Mai that have struggled with it. And I'm like, nah, it's one, we have to accept that it's a real thing. And I think more people now have accepted that it's a real thing. And making sure that we lean on these people that can actually help, who are actually there to help. Yeah.
Your wife sounds like an incredible lady. Tell me about her.
She's incredible. That's why I put a ring on it so fast.
Real?
Yeah, so fast. Yeah. Nah,
you guys met in radio.
We met in radio.
She wasn't a caller.
She wasn't a caller. No, she worked in our promo department. That was Naughty Nickson days back in the day. And and then I
Can you say something in your American accent just for us real quick?
But like, I remember when I worked on Flavor, because I worked at Flavor as well. I found an air check tape, and it was like, "What's up, dog?" And I was like, "Oh God!" Like, and I would say that in every voice break, and I was like, "Who are you, you yuck?" But yeah, they had an American dog. Hated it so much. I'm glad I slapped myself out of that. But no, I went through a stage, and then all of a sudden, this girl came up from New Plymouth. She just finished working there on work experience, and then she started working in our Auckland office, and I was like, damn, she's a bit all right. Like, she's all right. And then I just fell in love with her. Like right there and then, I was just like, you're the most amazing person I've ever met. Like, you get me. I get you. We just have fun. Like, we live our best life, and I think that she's the main reason why I've probably been able to be the best version of me, or I'm on that journey. She's very supportive. We've got a very good team dynamic. She's very risk adverse. I'm like the risk taker. So it's good balance. We've done so much together in the last 9 years that it's been awesome. Like, I know marriage isn't for everybody, but if you get the chance and you find, you're Mr. or Mrs. Right, like it's the best thing I've ever. It's my proudest moment of getting married. Yeah.
That's so cool, bro.
Yeah, and like, man, it's very cool to be able to, share your life with somebody that just gets you. It gets you.
What does the rest of your support system look like around you?
So I have obviously very supportive parents and very close family. Like, so close that my mum and my nana and grandpa, my mum and dad and my nana and grandpa live 2 houses apart.
True.
So very close. We always have our Sunday lunches and get-togethers, and so they've given me basically all my values and morals. Growing up. But I also have like a type 5.
Yeah.
And that's you never count yourself. So there's actually 6 of us, but you always count not yourself. And those are guys that I went to kindergarten with, church youth group, primary school. I went away for a bit, came back, and then we finished high school together. And they were they were in my line for my wedding, and we're still best mates now. So they keep me humble. Like, they're not allowed to call me Nickson. So they got to call me by my government name, and then my first name.
What's your government name?
Well, that's another story. How long have we got on this?
Right, bro.
Oh, okay. So.
Wait, your name's not Nickson?
No, it is, but that's my last name. Nickson Clark is my last name. So, but
it's a double banger.
Yeah. So my dad had my granddad's dad had 2 dads, a stepdad and a real dad, and when he went to war, he put the 2 names together and then made a double barrel. And so so I'm the
So
seventh.
this really is your artist name.
Yeah, well, yeah. So
it's
who would it be like? It would be like
any artist that changed their name.
Changed their name, yeah.
Lady Gaga.
But yeah, I'm the Gaga. But so when I was born, I think that I gave my mum a bit of a rough time, and I think my nana did my birth certificate, and
this is a common story in our people, right?
Yeah, I know,
This is
right?
like my.
But I was like,
nana
where's
named
my
me.
dad? Why wasn't my dad doing it?
Yeah.
But
See that guy over there?
Yeah.
His name's Vance, but his name is actually Danny Boy.
See, we can all relate. So, my nana filled in the form, but she didn't do the box. She didn't fill the boxes in properly.
Oh.
So she put the first name and the middle name, and then they were back to front, and then she put my last name, and then put all these Samoan names in between that my dad can't even say. So, so on my birth certificate it says Stephen Anthony Mamilo Su'ialo Nickson Clark. So that's what my mum, my
Stephen
Anthony Mamilo Su'ialo Nickson Clark.
Nickson Clark.
And then my mum was like, so they were giving me to my mum, and my mum, they were like, here's your baby Stephen. She's like, who's Stephen? That wasn't. I wanted Anthony. And then my mum was like,
she did. Oh, yeah. She wanted Anthony.
She wanted Anthony.
Oh,
and
wow.
so then they were like, oh, we'll just change it. We'll just change it later on down the track. And then mum never changed it. So 37 years later, it's still the same. And so now I fly everywhere as either Stephen or Anthony, and it confuses everybody. And then when I got into radio, they were like, Stephen, Anthony, nah, they're not radio names. We're just going to call you Nickson. And then so I was like, oh, sweet. So I remember doing my first show live, and then I came on and I was like, it's Nickson. And then my dad and mum were listening to my first show going, what? Yeah. So, yeah, that's a bit of a funny story.
Did you feel weird saying your name was Nickson?
At first I did, but then I was like, again, I wanted to find my own lane. I wanted to just, and I think it was like a clean slate for me. It was like, cool, like if you remembered me from school, like, and I was an idiot, like hopefully this is a clean slate and we can like start again. And yeah, and it just caught on. And there's very few people that actually know like my actual real name. So my wife's name is Sarah Nickson Clark, and they think that she loves me so much that she took my first name as her last name. So it's actually quite funny, and we just have to explain it so much. But yeah, Nickson just caught on, and I love it. It's a cool name. It's spelled cool, and it still pays homage to my dad, you know, and his dad as well. So yeah, it's not like they made up a completely different name. So yeah, it's still part of my name.
You've been for a lot, bro? Like, It's not like it was just a cruise for you, actually.
Nah. But I think everything has taught me a little bit more about life. And again, like, I'm so grateful. And like, again, like, it's such a cool job to be able to do radio and to have the experiences that we experience. But like, I never again want to take it for granted that it's a platform and it's a blessing to be able to be a part of people's lives every morning, and that they've trusted me for this long. It's nearly been 15 years now that I've woken up that early in the morning to be people's alarm clock or be their voice in their car as they're driving to work. And yeah, and it's been a good time. So, and that's outlasted a lot of other radio people. So yeah, very blessed.
Well, bro, I'm super grateful that you came in here today.
Thanks, man.
And shared a bit of your story. Thanks for your vulnerability also. That was super awesome.
Appreciate it, man. I mean, I'm joining the list with Joey Damon and Chloe Schwarbrook. I'm like, man, you're really scraping the barrel if I'm like third or fourth one down the list. But no, it was awesome. Thanks, Pat.
Stephen, Anthony, Nickson, Clarkson. I won't give a crack at the middle part.
Don't worry about it. Everyone gets confused.
Thanks for coming through, brother.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks, bro.